Hello, and welcome to the University Career Center presentation on professional interviewing techniques and tips. My name is Meredith Wiggins, and I'm an assistant director and a career coach with the University Career Center at KU. Before we begin, I want you to know that the UCC offers a wide variety of services to help you go from here, wherever here is for you, to your career. And in addition to presentations on interviewing, we also offer individual help with resumes, networking, searching for a job or internship, and more. We can schedule appointments via phone, email, Skype, or Zoom, so please don't hesitate to reach out because we are here for you. Now, let's begin the presentation. Interviewing is one of the most important aspects of the job search process, but I'm willing to bet that for the majority of you, it's also the most nerve-wracking aspect of the entire job search process. But the good news is that 90% of the interview is preparation. So although you can't know every question that every interviewer might ask, you can prepare, which will help give you confidence in the interview. So today, we are going to look at how to prepare for an interview, provide tips and techniques about how to answer those interview questions, and explore what steps to take after the interview itself. What do you think is the most common mistake that people make in an interview? You might be thinking not dressing appropriately or using too many verbal fillers like, like, so, yeah, I don't know. However, according to Forbes, the biggest mistake that people make in an interview is not researching the company beforehand. Why is this so important? It's not uncommon for an interviewer to say, "So, tell me what you know about our company and why you want to work here." When you research the company, not only can you impress them with your knowledge and ask informed questions during the interview, but it also illustrates a sincere interest in the company, and that can help set you apart from your competition. For example, if you're applying for a job as a sales representative, you should probably know the company's history and mission, its annual revenue, and its competitors. You can consider things like the company's values and culture and gather information on key products and services it offers. Where can you get this information? The graphic on the screen provides some ideas. The light blue circle in the upper left suggests going to the company website and reading the About section, which can tell you how the company likes to represent itself to the world. The dark blue circle on the upper right suggests that you explore LinkedIn, trade journals, and talk to company employees or former employees who can provide insight to the company as well. And the orange circle in the bottom middle reminds you to set a Google alert for the organization. If there's a new breaking story about the company, you'll be the first to know. And just think how impressive it would be to congratulate the marketing director on a recent merger that was announced 2 hours before your interview. And beyond the company or organization's broad aims, you should also make sure that you've gone through your specific job description closely and noted how your skills and experiences would add value to the company. You should also ask some additional questions on the logistical side to ensure that you have a smooth and successful interview day. When you get the call asking you to interview, it's perfectly acceptable to ask who you'll meet with. You can find out the names of the employees on the search committee or the employees who will interview you, and usually the human resources director can provide this information. But walking into an interview knowing the names and positions of each search member committee is impressive, and it demonstrates your interest and makes you a more informed interviewer. You're also going to want to know the interview schedule. Will you be performing a group interview, a panel, or a one-on-one? Will it be a Skype or Zoom interview, or will your interview consist of a series of all-day interviews? For more information about the different types of interviews and how to prepare for them, you can go to our career website, career.ku.edu/interviewing, to view the interviewing handout. Another way to prepare that might seem silly but is really helpful is to plan your route. Know the exact location of the interview, including where you will park for it if you plan to drive. Google Maps can be a really great resource to get you there, but remember to consider construction and rush hour traffic and make sure you plan accordingly. You should also prepare your portfolio and decide what items you're going to bring with you to the interview. Make sure you bring a copy of materials that you submitted with your application in a binder or a briefcase, which will keep your documents neat and organized rather than risking them falling all over the place. And make sure you bring extra copies of each of your interview documents, including the resume, cover letter, application itself, your references, and any portfolio samples that you may have submitted, if that applies. And you might also consider bringing a list of questions that you want to ask the interviewer about the company. Remember that you need to create questions for each interview. For example, the questions that you might ask the human resources director could be different than the questions that you ask your future supervisor. And it might also be a good idea to bring a cheat sheet, which is a list of the best stories that you might want to include for your interview in case you draw a blank while you're sitting there. And finally, it's not a bad idea to stick a bottle of water in your briefcase just in case you get a cotton mouth during the interview. Additionally, looking and feeling your best on the day of the interview is vitally important. How many seconds do you think it takes a hiring manager to know whether or not they're going to hire someone? If you said 90 seconds, then you're right. It takes 90 seconds, so you need to make a good first impression. The graph on the screen on the upper left indicates that in the interviewing world, first impressions are about 55% appearance and confidence, 38% quality of voice and grammar, and 7% the actual words you say. So what does that mean? It means that you need to plan what you'll do, say, and wear thoughtfully. You can swap answers with a friend, practice in a mirror, or schedule a mock interview with our office for more feedback. Also, consider the importance of body language and eye contact. According to the previous slide, 65% of employers indicate that clothes would be a determining factor when deciding between otherwise identical candidates. On the screen is a young man dressed in a professional navy suit with a white shirt and a light green tie. When you're considering what to wear for a professional interview, it's best to land on the side of more conservative, but always keep your specific audience in mind. If you're applying for a creative graphic design company with a very casual culture, showing up in a suit and tie probably isn't the best decision. However, if you dress too casually, it can be considered unprofessional. So whatever you decide, make sure your outfit is clean, neat, and still fits. And if you're performing online or phone interviews, dress as though you're meeting with someone face to face. It will make you feel more professional, and you never know if you're going to have to get out of your chair to obtain a document, and you don't want to be the person who stands up and has to walk across the room in your pajama bottoms in front of a potential future employer. So for more detailed information about appearance and interview attire, check out our professional interviewing book online at career.ku.edu/interviewing. Body language is also extremely important in an interview. On the screen is an image of a young woman speaking to an off-screen interviewer. She's smiling and she's gesturing towards the interviewer. And it's always a good idea to practice for your interview, but it can be especially helpful to practice in front of a mirror so that you can see your expressions and your overall body language. While it can seem really obvious, it's important to smile and to speak clearly, and practicing can help with this. Employers want to hire people who are positive, can communicate effectively, and who come across as friendly and helpful. And one of the most widely accepted ways of communicating that you're engaged and interested is to maintain eye contact. In fact, as an earlier slide indicated, 67% of employers indicated that lack of eye contact is the most common nonverbal interview mistake. If maintaining eye contact presents an accessibility challenge for you, please feel free to contact the UCC to discuss strategies for navigating the interview successfully. Another important aspect of body language: offer a firm but not too firm handshake, because no one likes a dead fish and no one likes a bone cruncher. Make sure to direct your answers to everyone in the room, not just one individual. Sit up straight and be aware of your hands. It's fine to gesture to make a point, but it's easy to go too big and to distract the interviewers. And don't forget, your interview begins the minute you walk through the door into the company. Be nice to everybody, especially the administrative assistants, because they often communicate to the search committee how you acted when no one else was looking. On the screen is a graphic listing a few more tips to make sure that you have a great interview. Plan to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. Any more than that can become really awkward and give you more time to get nervous. If you want, feel free to say yes to coffee or water, but remember that coffee leaves a mark when it's spilled. Make sure you greet each person in the room and turn your phone off entirely before the interviewer starts. Wait until you're asked before you sit down because you might unintentionally take someone's favorite chair. And finally, under no circumstances should you chew gum. You would be surprised how many people do this. Don't. Remote interviewing can present its own set of challenges because whether you're interviewing by phone or video chat, it's best to be prepared for potential glitches. Conduct a technical trial run of your video conferencing platform a day or so before the interview, which will give you enough time to adapt if anything isn't working. Check your computer camera, your microphone and internet connection, and make sure you know your login information, especially if you haven't used this particular app before. If you're using your laptop or tablet, check your Wi-Fi connection and make sure that your equipment is charged and ready to go. You need to have a backup plan in case, despite all of these preparation, the platform that you plan to use just doesn't work that day, because you might end up having a phone conversation instead of a video interview. Make sure that you've minimized distractions. You should switch off alerts and chats during the interview and put a note on your door saying that you're not available to talk. Avoid having these kinds of interviews in really high traffic areas of your house or in public places if at all possible, because it's distracting to the people around you, it's distracting to the interviewer, and it can be distracting to you as well. Again, make sure you look professional. Dress like you're going to an in-person interview, and make sure that the background that the interviewer will see during the interview doesn't have anything distracting. In fact, a lot of video conferencing applications will let you set a blank background. Again, pay attention to your facial expressions and the tone of your voice. Keep your voice calm and speak clearly, but make sure you also smile and laugh when it's appropriate, just like you would in person. And look directly into the camera if you're using one. It's very easy to get distracted by what's happening on screen, but looking away makes you come across a little distracted. And finally, make sure you have your resume and your other relevant documents with you in case you need to refer to them at any point. Now, how do you answer those tough but really common interview questions like, what interests you most about this position and our company? What would you consider your greatest strength? What questions do you have for us? Can you tell me about your short-term and long-term professional goals? During an interview, you're going to be sharing stories about your skills, your strengths, and your qualifications with employers. So it's best to keep in mind the kinds of things that employers want to learn during the interview. Although employers already have basic information about you from your resume and possibly your cover letter, they're going to ask you a series of questions that will reveal in more detail whether you can do the job, whether you're going to be invested in your job, and if you're a good overall fit for the organization. This is where research is helpful, because if you know the company's values, mission statement, its culture, and the job requirements inside and out, you can pick stories and examples that illustrate that you have the skills, the strength, and the passion for the job. This is called targeting your answers, and it's the most important factor to consider when you're answering interview questions. So take some time to write down examples of personal stories that might address common interview questions in advance of the interview. There are basically two types of interview questions: answer plus one and behavioral questions. Answer plus one questions, which are summarized on the left side of the screen, are when you give the interviewer an answer plus an example to support your answer. Examples of these types of questions would be, tell me about yourself, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, or why should I hire you? You should always provide an example with your answer. Behavioral questions, or STAR questions, Summarized on the right side of the screen, reveal your past performance. They ask you to tell a story about a time you handled a specific type of situation and how. Because the best predictor of future performance is past performance, interviewers can use these examples to see if you can do the job by seeing how you've done similar things in the past. So, how do you best answer these two types of questions? For answer plus one questions, always supercharge your answer by adding an example or a key piece of company-specific information to your response. Tailor your answer so that it aligns with the company and the position and highlights your strengths as it relates to the job. Answers should be between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, depending on the depth of the question. For example, to answer the greatest strength question, use qualities in the answer that are qualities the company values. Every company has a checklist that is made up of skills and abilities that a candidate must have in order to do the job itself. So pick strengths to talk about that are directly related to the position, acknowledging that it's important to the job for which you're interviewing. For example, if you're asked about your greatest strength, don't just say, "I'm good at multitasking." Support your answer with an example to illustrate or demonstrate that you're really good at multitasking, like so. I am extremely good at multitasking. In my previous job as a desk assistant, I was required to greet customers, answer phones, and manage databases while also managing all aspects of the company's social media. My organization skills helped me meet multiple deadlines and manage multiple priorities and projects. To answer the greatest weakness, admit your weakness honestly, but don't pick something that's essential for the job. For example, if you're applying to be a pizza delivery person, don't say, "Oh, I have a lead foot and I'm always late for stuff." Not a good look. So only state one weakness. Don't try to outsmart the hiring manager. It's okay to admit a real weakness if you also demonstrate the steps that you've gone through to correct it or improve on it. And make sure you use a success story from your past to show how you've worked through this. And always be ready for a follow-up question. Here's an example. Let's say that you're interviewing for a computer software position. You might answer this way. Well, coming from the computer science industry, I've gotten used to working long hours on my own with little need for working in a group dynamic. And because of this, I've sometimes found it challenging to work effectively in group settings. But since so many companies rely on group work for problem solving and completing tasks, I recognized during college the need to improve in this area. So I started making an effort to spend more time with my colleagues. And this strategy allowed me to become a much better communicator. And more importantly, it's given me the experience necessary to better understand how to succeed within a group dynamic. Then there are behavioral questions, or tell us about a time questions. These can be the most difficult to answer if you don't have a good formula in place. We suggest using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Tell me about the situation you were in, the task that was given to you, the action you took, and the result that it created. This will allow you to give clear, concise answers that last between 30 seconds to 90 seconds each. The key is to use a story that best describes the question and targets the job whenever possible. And always remember to include the result in every answer. So here's an example of how to answer a behavioral question using the STAR method. The question is, tell me about a time when you dealt with a difficult customer. So an example answer might be, I was a server at a very popular bar and grill, and a party of 10 came in for a 6:30 reservation, but we showed no record of it ever being made. The woman who said she made the reservation got very angry. She was yelling and causing a scene at the grill, and it was my job to calm her down and turn the situation around. So I listened to her concerns and I summarized them back to her so that she knew I understood her complaints. And then I offered her free appetizers and drinks for the group and told her that I would work very quickly to get her a table. As a result, I was able to get a table within 20 minutes, and the woman actually apologized for her actions. She thanked me for the drinks and the appetizers and complimented me on how I handled the situation. There's a list of common behavioral questions in the interview booklet on our career.ku.edu/interviewing website, and you could read more of them there. Finally, At the end of the interview, you want to express appreciation that they took their time and shared their insights. It's a good idea to thank anyone who has helped with arrangements, including the administrative assistant who may have helped arrange the interview. You want to make sure that you focus and summarize because most interviewers are going to signal the end of the interview with closing questions like, why should we hire you? Or is there anything else that we should know? This is a good time to focus your answers in on the skills or qualities that you really want to highlight. You should have an interview agenda going in that focuses on skills and qualities that you think will make you a good hire. You always want to ask questions, especially when they say, do you have any questions for us? It's a real turnoff when people respond, oh no, you answered everything already, because your questions communicate your level of interest and preparation. You should have some ready to go. Prepare them in advance based on things you've researched and things you're genuinely curious about. Then, after the interview, write down any thoughts or feedback you have for yourself, questions you were stumped by, things you want to research further, things you liked, things you're concerned about. And if something's weighing on you, if you're not satisfied with an answer that you provided, consider following up with the interviewer to provide further thoughts or clarification. Email or phone is fine. Don't just don't wait around too long to do that. And also, don't wait around too long to hear about this job. Don't put everything on hold. Keep moving, keep looking, keep interviewing, and reach out to your references. Thank them for being willing to act as a reference and let them know if you think they're going to get a call about the position. Again, when the interview is coming to a close, and again in your thank you note, don't forget to ask for the job because employers want to hire people who want to work for them. This does not mean asking, so do I get the job? Instead, you can say something like, I'm really enthusiastic about this opportunity. After talking to you, I think this is a great match for what you need and what I bring, and I would be thrilled to work here. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Always, always, always write a thank you note, even if you're not particularly interested in the job after taking the time to interview. 25% of hiring managers have said that they would not hire someone who didn't send a post-interview thank you note. So make sure that you send it within 24 to 48 hours. The sooner the better. And a lot of students ask us if email thank you notes are okay. Yes, they are. I would encourage you to send both an email and a hard copy thank you note, especially if time is of the essence, but an email note is perfectly sufficient. You just want to make sure that you write a note that demonstrates that you understand what the needs of the position are based on the conversation that you had, and that illustrates your excitement about it. Don't just relist your qualifications and your experience because by this point they will have read your resume a few times. A sample thank you note is included here on the screen. You can also add a link to your personal branding website in this follow-up communication, which allows you to extend the interview and provide a little more personal information. If you have additional questions or concerns, check out the UCC website at career.ku.edu/interviewing. Part of that webpage is now shown on the screen. We do offer online mock interviews with a career coach, as well as interviews that you can record at home to be reviewed by a member of the coaching staff later on. Remember, preparation is the key to any successful interview, and we are here to help with that. You can make an appointment to speak with one of our staff via hirejayhawks.com or by phoning our office at 785-864-3624. Good luck and knock 'em dead.